We can share, Mom and I can share.
No, I'm missing page 2. I don't know where it went.
No Lamentations?
I have pages 1,
Oh.
no, I have
5 more copies. But please 2 keeps on getting skipped over.
Oh, all right.
Okay, I'll do
5 more.
the introduction.
Okay.
Wow, look at this. Oh, there's that. Hey, Bill. Hi, Barbara. See that? Look at this. I got them. Yeah, see, I win.
Ask and they will come.
And there's no food either.
I know.
This is right up joint. Okay.
We're getting them. Yeah.
You know, Trump last night was slurring his words.
Yeah, I
and
know.
whispering.
I on the X thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also he was saying that Kamala is as beautiful as Melania.
Yeah.
You okay, Rebecca?
It was very odd. It was very weird.
Getting weirder and weirder.
Yeah. Okay. Hi. Good morning, everyone. We're making some more copies. Don't worry. I don't know why. Oh.
It's right here.
Oh, thanks.
What did you bet, by the way?
How many people are going to show up today?
Who's going to give the
What?
Delray on the 30th?
Yeah.
I lost.
But this is not on.
See that.
Eric.
Also, he's not going to be here.
No, but I can see that you lost.
Yeah.
More ways than one.
Hello, hello, hello. No, Eric.
Mike?
Is it on?
Yeah, light's on. No, it's on. The light's on.
Oh wait, it's blinking. Is the light blinking?
Yes, blinking. Hello, hello, hello.
No.
No,
it's,
now it's blinking.
If you want to shorten that,
Turn it on, turn it off.
I will be happy to cut.
Hello. Still blinking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't say anything.
Oh, we have to make more copies. Something like the food. Yeah. Well, you are truly the righteous of our.
Yes.
It's
Hello.
thank you,
Hello.
thank you.
Hello.
Yeah, it's working now.
You are the true righteous. We're going to start beginning more.
Hello. Hello.
At sunrise from now on. This is the righteous, right, Cantor?
Right, exactly.
Ooh, okay. Eric, tell me when I can start. So, how's everyone doing? All right? No food today for this. Sorry.
Yeah, I already feel the stomach twisting.
Oh, what? Yeah. Okay. Well, shalom, everyone. And Betty's making some more of the services. And for those who might be streaming, I'm sorry you don't have a service. So you'll just need to follow along. And this is Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av. I'm not going to go through that whole list of all of the tragedies of the day. But the fact that you're here is very interesting. Actually, after the service is over, we can stay together for a few moments. Hi, Howard. And kind of discuss as to why you came today. But just to say, I was listening to an Orthodox rabbi's class or program on Tisha B'Av yesterday while I was driving around. And even he said that even in the Orthodox community, this day really has very little meaning. Because if you were to ask the average person, do you mourn over the destruction of the temples in Jerusalem, the first and second temples? Does that bother you? Do you wish that the temple was rebuilt and reconstituted? And the average Jew would say, "What, are you kidding? I don't think about this thing at all." For a matter of fact, I guess even for me, being aware of people's feelings regarding these things, traditionally when the glass is broken at the end of the wedding ceremony, many rabbis would say, we break this glass to remember the destruction of the walls of the temple in Jerusalem. Well, if I were to ask the majority of couples that I marry, either certainly first timers who, let's say, are in their 20s or something like that, and definitely even second timers around or third or fourth timers around, does this mean anything to you? The average Jew would say absolutely not, which is why I say at the end of the ceremony, as you have the strength to shatter this glass, may the two of you together as a couple in love have the strength to shatter all problems that come your way so that you may live together long and beautiful life. And they love that. Okay, yeah, it has some meaning to them. So, what does this mean to you? Interestingly enough, also, this rabbi in his podcast, if you want to call it that, shared the following story, which I think is very interesting, and then we'll start our program. Is that according to the, if you want to call it legend or what hearsay, so to speak, or record, when in 1967 in June, that the Israeli armies were able, the IDF was able to enter into the Holy City, and for the first time in centuries, Jews were actually able to freely stand by the Kotel, the Western Wall, and once again in their holy city, and to say their prayers. And according to this story, is that there was a group of very Orthodox Jews praying, and they were weeping and crying. And why were they weeping? Because finally they could be at this holy spot, although the Kotel, the Western Wall, is not the Temple Mount. The Temple Mount is further inside. But however, they were weeping dramatically in joy and in sadness over the fact that it's taken so long to be back at this place. And then next to them, there was a young man without a kippah on, a soldier actually, and totally secular Israeli Jew. And he was weeping and sobbing hysterically. And so one man, noticing here these Orthodox Jews weeping, and he understood why they're weeping and crying and sobbing, but why is he? He's not Orthodox. What does this mean to him to return here? And so this person visiting went up to the secular Jew and said, "Why are you weeping?" And he said, "I'm weeping because I don't understand or feel why they're weeping." Okay. And I thought that that's an incredible story, right? He's weeping because he doesn't get it. And how sad he feels he misses something. So the fact that you are here today, if anyone is streaming, Eric, are any people actually streaming? Hi, shalom, everyone. Great. Is the fact is maybe you have that sense of why you're here and missing something, and understanding that our people, whether you yearn and offer the prayers for every day for the temple to be rebuilt or not, you have the sense of the tragedy of this day, but also, as you'll see in the service that I found from Hadar, which is some semi-traditional learning center in Manhattan, and the fact is that also we should also reflect on the losses in our own lives and personalize what this day actually means. The way I'm setting up the program today is the traditional reading is from the Megillah, from the scroll of Eicha, Lamentations, which is one of the books of the 39 books of the Hebrew Bible, the Tanakh. Is read traditionally last night and chanted again this morning. And so Cantor, and we have the English here, but first he'll chant a first opening couple of verses, and then we'll look at the English. And the other side of the page that has the Lamentations on it, we will not turn to that side until the service ends, because as sad and overwhelming as Eicha is that at the end of the service, we always, as Jews, end on a high point. And that is the words which we are familiar with, Hashivenu Adonai Elecha, return us, O Lord, to you, and we shall return, which of course are a part of the Selichot service, and our services also, Hashivenu, throughout the year. And the reading today, I'll talk about it as we go along. It's really a very beautiful one, reflecting upon the meaning of the day, both for our people of Israel, as well as for us as individuals. And you'll notice that as the service moves along, is that it refers to God as a she, as the feminine. And that is because, and it mentions this midrash in the service, and that is, when the people of Israel during the first and second temples, the destruction of them, and many of the Jews were taken in captivity. First, of course, to Babylonia in the first temple. The Romans, desecration and destruction of the temple. The Romans took refugees also, but unfortunately they killed just a lot of people. Is that as they were taken away, that they mourned and said, however, in the Midrash, that the Shekhinah, that God's presence was with them. And certainly this is a very personal, very powerful statement to understand, you know something, when we're going through our own source in life, and during those low moments in which we feel exiled from our family, friends, from life itself, possibly in emotional or physical or spiritual pain, and then all of a sudden, for one moment or two, you feel God's presence. That's the Shekhinah. And you might wonder, why did God place you into that position? Why can't God take you out of it? Well, you know, something is sort of like coming to someone and having them ask you to relieve their pain. And, of course, you know that they really can't. So they put their arms around you and give you a hug and say, I love you, and I'll be with you no matter what. I remember during one of my visits at Sloan Kettering years, as I walked into this woman's room, and she was very, very ill from lung cancer and was having very great difficulty breathing. And as I walked into the room, I looked at her, I introduced myself to her, I'd never met her before, and the first words out of her mouth were, Rabbi, can you kill me? End my life right now, just choke me, end my life. And I held her hand and I said to her, I want you to understand something. If I could take your life now and end your suffering, I would. But I hope you understand I can't do that. But I can hold your hand and we could be together and we can say the Shema, which we did. And so, is that enough? Well, sometimes that has to be enough. And so the Shekhinah is with our people of Israel, even during this difficult time right now in the state of Israel. They're under a red alert, as you all know, thinking that an attack might come any moment, and yet if you read some of the things on the internet, it might not even happen at all, at least not now. And imagine saying, well, you know something, you're in a building, and at some point in time while you're staying in the building, the building might collapse on you, but on the other hand, maybe it might not. Actually, it sounds like the hurricane reports here in Florida. It might come, it might not come, all right? Living under that fear all the time sometimes is worse than anything else. And so this is a very powerful service. I'm thrilled that you're here. Cantor Dan is, and certainly those of you streaming. So, okay, here I go. Oh, where's the rest of the service? Betty, Lynn. I gave it to you. Yeah, you have one? Oh, okay. So, Cantor is now going to open for us the opening verses of Eicha Lamentations. Oh, 1 second, sorry. Lori, one of the traditions is on Eicha, just like the 3 weeks prior to today, is a period of mourning. And so she thought we were just relaxed here sitting on the stairs. Oh yeah, well, casual. Yeah, we're sitting here casually, but not casually. We're sitting as if you were in mourning.
So I'll also add, last night, Rita and two of her children that are here right now, we sat in our living room. We took the cushions off of the couch. We sat on the bare couch, and she chanted all of Eicha with the lights off. And it was quite a moment. So we try and make ourselves uncomfortable in our period of mourning. Eicha v'sheva badad ha'ir rabati am haitza ke'almana Rabati vagoyim sarati b'medinot haita lamas makotiv kebalayla v'dimata alecheya en la menachem mikol ohaveha ורעך בכתובה, היו לה לאויבים. גלתיו יהודה מעוני ומרוב עבודה היא ישבה בגויים לא מצאה מנוח. כל רודפיה השיגו בין המצרים.
Let us offer these paragraphs responsively. Alas, lonely sits the city, talking about Jerusalem, once great with people. She that was great among nations is become like a widow. The princess among states is become a thrall.
Bitterly she weeps in the night, her cheek wet with tears. There is none to comfort her. Of all her friends, all her allies have betrayed her. They have become her foes.
Judah, Yehuda, has gone into exile because of misery and harsh oppression. When she settled among the nations, she found no rest. All her pursuers overtook her in the narrow places.
Zion's roads are in mourning, empty of festival pilgrims. All her gates are deserted. Her priests sigh. Her maidens are unhappy. She is utterly desolate.
Okay, we now look to the service. Let it not totter and fall. Bereshit Rabbah teaches that God created and destroyed many worlds before finally allowing this world, our world, to stand. This midrash teaches us three things. First, destruction, Gesundheit, and loss are a part of the fabric of our very existence. It must be true. There is no avoiding it. There is only wrestling and reconciling and accepting it. Second, Gesundheit. The midrash contains in it a promise or a hope that even after each destruction, a new world is created. After loss, there is rebirth. After the destruction of one world, there is the creation of the next. Based on the midrash, this midrash, Rabbi Natan Tzvi Finkel, a 20th century Musar teacher, which means ethics, teaches. Laura, you want to read? We are forced?
We are forced to say that also in the destruction of the worlds there is great wisdom, and from this wisdom emerged the world that exists. As the scripture writes about this, the Lord founded the earth by wisdom, Proverbs 3:19. However, this is not really destruction at all. Rather, it is a way of wisdom that through the different attempts to build worlds and their destruction, that the foundation established upon which the world is based.
The creation of the new world is not Do you have service? The creation of the new world is not disconnected from the destruction of the previous world. Rather, in his language, meaning this rabbi, we are forced to say, against our natural inclination, that there is great wisdom in the destruction of the worlds, and it is from this wisdom that the new world emerges. Our world exists on the back of all of the previous attempts of these heartbreaking losses and moments of destruction. Imagine, just to take a break for a second, how powerful this teaching is. When we have tsuris in life, whether it's for our people of Israel, October 7th, let us say, most recently, or stuff that happens in our own lives, we tend to be pulled into it, dragged down into it, and almost sometimes it feels like we are in quicksand, sinking, sinking, sinking with no way up. But when we see what we are going through as a step towards something else, something possibly new, maybe even, I know it's not something to think about, but something maybe even better, it uplifts us and helps us to disperse the mud that is dragging us down. On Tisha B'Av, we commemorate the destruction of not only one, but two temples separated by a span of about 650 years. We finally come back from the destruction and long exile of the first temple and rebuild, only to have the second temple destroyed as well. The prophet Yirmiyahu, in both the book of Yirmiyahu as well as the book of Lamentations, traditionally ascribed to him, acts as a first-person witness to the destruction of the first temple at the hands of the Babylonians. By the way, those words we read before at the beginning and cantor chanted are his. Overcome with grief as he witnesses the ruin of a nation, he writes of the anguish and sickness of his heart. Lamentations 1. He bewails, quote, "I will sit in darkness like those long dead." On Tisha B'Av, when we read the book of Lamentations, we bear witness to Yirmiyahu's grief as he watches a city laid to waste and given over to its enemies. In Tamar Bi'ala's moving modern midrash, another midrash, entitled Midrash on Miscarriage and Creation, published in Dirshuni, she places God in the role of Yirmiyahu, who, like Yirmiyahu, witnesses the destruction of her beloved worlds falling at her feet. And notice here, the model here being written, of course, by a woman, is using what she went through with a miscarriage on the level of what? Of loss, of destruction, of sadness, of tsuris, and of course, what happens after. And so, Mark, you want to read, and God saw, next page.
And God saw all her words falling at her feet. And she said to herself, I will just let my heart fall along with them, and I will sit in darkness like those long dead.
Okay, so the har here is the Shekhinah, is God's presence that is with us during our times of tsuris, of pain, of sadness, and loss. She places Yirmiyahu's language in God's mouth, and God says to herself, yes, I will sit in darkness like those long dead. It is God who is at the center of this loss, and it is God who is broken in mourning, watching her words pool at her feet. Barbara, you want to read the next selection, please?
Her tears and blood were scattering in space, searching for land that would absorb them, and they wept to fragments and pieces until all of existence was the cloud and fog of the great deep. God tried to look again at the ruins of her worlds and just couldn't. She covered herself with this great deep, as it is written, you made the deep, covered it as a garment. And she beat her chest and wailed, for I shall be a desolation forever.
Like a person deep in depression, buried under the covers, God cannot bear to look at her world. She covers herself in the Tahom, woven together from her blood and her tears. Whereas in the book of Yirmiyahu, an angry, disappointed God wounds the people and promises, you shall be a desolation forever. In Biala's midrash, God beats her chest and wails, I will be a desolation forever. It is not the people who are alone in despair, but rather God, who is alone and in despair, buried in the Tahom of her own scattered tears and blood. Next page. Excuse me. Howard, do you want to read? Get behind you, Barbara.
Time passes slowly, sometimes changes.
Oh no, what did page 4?
There you go.
What did she think at the moment?
What did she think at that moment when she could no longer bear the look on those worlds? She remembered that it is said of her, you brought forth the earth and the world. Psalm 90. And her womb, eternal. Jeremiah. And she felt her sons and daughters straining to be born so that they could say in gratitude, for I was not killed in the womb. She closed her eyes, swallowed the pain, lodged in her throat, and pleaded for herself that she might find more loving mercy and faith, as it is written, I declare a world of loving mercy will be built. Your faithfulness will be established in the heavens. And from that, she went and created new heavens and a new earth.
She feels her sons and daughters, her future worlds, straining to be born. God closes her eyes and pleads with herself for the chesed, which means kindness, the capacity for loving kindness, and emunah, faith, to begin to create again and bring new worlds into existence. Before God can create, she must mourn. Time must pass. She must feel the pressing call of these future worlds, and then she prays to herself for the capacity for emunah, faith, and chesed, that is kindness. God takes off her garment. She removes it to home the great deep of her own tears and blood, the scattered worlds previously destroyed, and she gathers together the living waters, Mayim Chayim, and hovers over them. Sima?
When the heavens and earth stood in wonderment and bewilderment, Tohim Yuvohim, she took off the garment of the deep with which she had been covering herself, and that deep cloud and fog. Her blood and tears gathered into the living waters, and she hovered over them, back and forth, as it is written, when the earth was tahu vahohu, darkness over the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God hovering over the face of the waters.
Biala's Midrash closes with a prayer. She writes of God. Shelley?
And what was she saying at that moment? That it should not totter and fall forever. And her sons and daughters joined their prayers to hers, and they themselves said that it should not totter and fall forever, that it should not totter and fall forever.
Biala imagines a devastated God who finds the capacity despite loss, and from within loss to begin to create again. She draws together living waters and creates anew the heavens and the earth. But in this new creation there is fear and tentativeness. There is new life and there is loss. There is pushing forward and there is a newly enhanced awareness of fragility. And so God prays that it should not totter and fall, that it should not tottle and fall. And her sons and daughters join their prayer along with hers. Together all creation prays. This is what's so powerful about, I think, Tisha B'Av. Whether the temples in Jerusalem have any place in our lives at any level, is that, as some of you know, I do believe in reincarnation. And who knows what part of our own reincarnated lives were there watching the walls being destroyed in the first temple or the second by the Romans. Who knows if we were there in 1492 when the Inquisition began, and so many of our brothers and sisters, maybe even some of us in our reincarnated lives, were there and were given the choice to either convert outwardly to Christianity, Catholicism, or to be burnt alive at a stake, or worse, torture. Before that, how many of us were there in the Warsaw Ghetto, reincarnated at that time to who we are today? Each one of us as Jews and as human beings in the concept of reincarnation are filled with past lives. Rabbi Chaim Vital, the great Kabbalist, said that we can have up to, imagine, 1,000 lifetimes, every single one of us, as our neshama is going on a journey. So therefore, we should feel the pain of these pasts, but also what? As these words have taught us today, the exhilaration of the past turned into present, and then what? And then future. As some of you know, Judy and I just spent almost 2 weeks in Eastern Europe, in Prague, and then in Regensburg, a city in Germany, and then later on in the week down in Vienna and then Budapest. And the history of Eastern Europe, if you're not familiar, and Judy and I certainly really weren't, is one of constant conquering, and then the conquerors get conquered, and again and again and again. In Budapest, and I don't remember all the details of the history, but there was one emperor who loved the Jews, said, okay, I'm going to live in your area and just pay my taxes, okay, whatever it was. And then a new emperor came about, or a new ruler, a new king, and said, oh no, I don't like you Jews, get out. Okay, and on the way out, killed them all. And then another one came in, oh, come on back again, let's rebuild, okay? This happened in all these cities. And then again, get out. And then again, and actually in Vienna, we went to what's called the Stadt Temple. Gorgeous, gorgeous synagogue. We had the opportunity to go in once I said I'm a rabbi. They said, okay, we'll let you in now. We had about 8 of us as we were traveling together. And it's just gorgeous. And they say that this is now the 4th rebirth of the Vienna Jewish community, the 4th rebirth. which means 3 times they died, and which means now 4 times they came back to life. So, sure, if we were in Jerusalem right now, standing at the Kotel and touching those wonderful, very beautiful, inspiring stones, we might weep. Maybe we should weep, because guess what? We might have been there. But on the other hand, there is the state of Israel today, and whatever its future is, may it be a positive one, a good one, a strong one, forever, of course. But the fact is that life is a series of what? Of rebirths, from one moment to the next. Biala's stunning midrash is teaching us several things. First, sometimes we just have to take time to mourn and grieve the loss. Sometimes we are like God, covering ourselves in the Tehom, unable to face the world. Second, we can always get out from under the Tehom on our own. Sometimes we need to be pulled out gently from under it as God's future sons and daughters call out to her as they join their prayer to God's. But finally, the new world is created, and out of the blood and tears we cry over the previous worlds. Remember, this Biala's Midrash is speaking about her miscarriage. That's why the image is here. But guess what? Each one of our deaths as a people, and some of us personally, we have blood, whether it's real blood or just blood and guts and tears, right? Yep. These blood and tears are real and important, and they are what literally get drawn together to constitute new life, the living waters. We could not create this new world were it not for the blood and tears we shed over what? Over loss. Adrian Reich, a poet, offers us these beautiful poetic lines we read together. My heart is moved by all I cannot save. So much has been destroyed, I have to cast my light with those who age after age, perversely, with no extraordinary power, reconstitute the world. That's the word there, reconstitute the world. In the last line here, Rich could have written, create the world, but she did not. She wrote, reconstitute the world. The world is created out of destruction. Certainly for those of us who are familiar with the Big Bang, it was great destruction that brought about creation. Those are those words we read a few moments ago, tohu vavohu, in the opening section of Bereshit. Great destruction and chaos until it all formed into what? Into matter and to life. Perhaps this is precisely what the Talmud Yerushalmi in Barachot 2:4 is trying to express when it states that the Messiah was born on the same day as the destruction of the temple. By the way, there is one belief that the day that the Mashiach will come is, guess when? Tisha B'Av. On the worst of our days is the magnificence of a beautiful future. Figure that one out. And I had heard recently that there is a segment of the Sephardic community that in the afternoon of Tisha B'Av, they clean their houses. They get brooms and sweep the floor just in case the Mashiach shows up. I guess those of us in the Ashkenazic tradition should get a little Manischewitz this afternoon and put out a cup of wine because maybe he'll show up, or she will show up, or it will show up. Okay. Our ultimate redemption rises from the ashes of our quintessential ruination. Wow. Those are big words. Okay. Quintessential ruination. For those of you familiar with the myth of the phoenix bird arises out of the ashes, out of the fire. And certainly, and I'm not equating one for the other to be sure, but from the smoke of the crematoria of Auschwitz and Bergen-Belsen and Treblinka and all of them arose the state of Israel eventually. Yep. They are inextricably linked. One necessarily emerges from the other. Let us read this together to finish this part. This has been a year of devastating destruction. I hope and I pray that together we will have the power to reconstitute the world through our blood and our tears, building a new world, a better world out of destruction. Amen. So now we go back to our original page, Lamentations, turn to the back of the page for the concluding words of Lamentations of Eicha. And notice how after, I think there's 5 chapters to Eicha, these last words are of a positive nature. Let's read them first in the English, and the cantor will chant them. And then we'll stand for Kaddish and El Maleh to remember those who have lost and lives taken during the thousands of years of our people's history, but from their graves rise the sun of a new day. Her enemies are now the masters, her foes are at ease, because the Lord has afflicted her for her many transgressions. Her infants have gone into captivity before the enemy. Because of this, our hearts are sick. Because of these, our eyes are diminished. Because of Mount Zion, which lies desolate, jackals prowl over it. Let's stop for a second. Take a breath in. Breath out as we now separate the loss and the sadness and the death and move on to hope in the future and life together. But you, O Lord, are enthroned forever. Your throne endures through the ages. Take us back, O Lord, to yourself, and let us come back. Renew our days as of old. For truly you have rejected us, bitterly raged against us. Take us back, O Lord, to yourself, and let us come back. Renew our days as of old. Hashivenu.
Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva chadesh yameinu kekedem. Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Adonai elecha v'nashuva Chadesh, Chadesh, Yamenu kekedem.
Let us all stand. Try to stand. And cantor first will chant Ele Maleh Rachamim in the plural, asking God to keep close all of those whose lives have been lost to our people of Israel, but shall be remembered and cherished always.
El Maleh Rachamim Shochen Bamromim Hametzeh Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei HaShechina Im kedoshim uteorim kezohar harakia mazirim lenishmot shakirin shachol leolamim Ba'al harachamim Yastirem beseter knafav leolamim Bitzrar hachayim et nishmatam Adonai hu nachalatam Ve'yanuchu v'shalom al mishkavom Ve'nomar Amen.
If you're not familiar with Kaddish, I'm assuming looking around that you are, it's page 598. However, just to say, as we offer Kaddish, let us offer the reflection that the soul of even the very first person whose life was taken, whose life was diminished, whose life was lost because he or she was a Hebrew, an Israelite, a Jew, is our soul as well. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon, v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, bagala uvizman kariv v'meru, amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mivarach, le'olam olmei almayo, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekudusha b'richu, le'elo min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, damiran b'yalma v'imru, amen. Yehei shalom Rabbah min shemaya, v'chaim olenu v'al kol Yisrael v'meru, amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, uyasei shalom olenu v'al kol Yisrael v'meru, amen. By your coming here, you have done something important. You have made a statement. For those streaming, you have made a statement to yourself and to God that something is very important, and when we end our video, our streaming, I'll go sit down again and just talk for a few moments and share. But to realize what we represent the past, the present, and the future of our people. When I was preparing for the service, I wasn't sure what service to use, how we're going to put this together, whatever, and I went to our prayer book, Mishkan. And unless I look too fast, I don't believe there is any service for Tisha B'Av in that prayer book. What? What does that mean? Didn't happen? What did that mean? And actually, Gates of Prayer had a service for Tisha B'Av, and I was prepared to use that until I found the service that we use today, and I hope you found it meaningful. How could that be? We're going to be discussing more of this as this next year goes on and whatnot. But Reform Judaism is trying to figure out where it's going. And I think that if it cuts out its past, it's like if you cut out the feet of a person, guess what? Can you stand? No, you're going to fall down. And we can't do that. And I don't know why I never noticed that before. Yes. And as Lynn and Betty told me, is that we haven't had a Tisha B'Av program in many years here. And I thank you all for being here. So I thought maybe just in conclusion, somehow let's all hold hands and we'll sing Hatikva. And by the way, the services that we have today, we're going to make a circle of some sort, as best as we can make a circle here. Okay. And this is an interesting circle. Okay, Lori, hold on to Candace's elbow. There you go. Okay. Hatikva, what does that word mean? The hope. And that's what it's all about, like a beautiful statue up in front of the building, hope. I just love that statue. And you look at her, and she's releasing those birds. And even it's amazing, without any facial features, I see a smile on her face and a sparkle to her eyes, believing that the future can be beautiful.
Kol balevav pnima nefesh Yehudi omiyah ulfatei mizrach kadima ayin letzion Sophia od lo avda tikvateinu hatikva shnot alpayim liotam choshi be'artzenu Eretz Zion Yerushalayim liotam choshi be'artzenu ציון וירושלים.
Amen.
Amen.
Everyone take a seat. Eric,
Thank you all.
take a seat, everyone, for a few moments. Oh, I don't.